The road stretched ahead, dark and empty, lined with towering pines that blocked the moonlight. Marion Crane drove fast, her mind racing as much as her car. She held in her hand a sum of money that wasn't hers, $1,000 taken from her employer's safe. She knew the risk, knew the consequences, yet her desperation had overpowered her caution. Every mile closer to freedom brought a mix of exhilaration and fear, the kind that sets nerves on fire. Marion's life had been ordinary, framed by routine, unremarkable days, and a suffocating sense of obligation. She had dreams, small ones, for herself, and the money seemed like the only chance to finally claim them. Yet the weight of what she had done pressed on her, gnawing at the edges of her mind. The shadows in the forest seemed to lean closer, whispering that no secret remained hidden forever. When the gas station appeared, Marion slowed and filled the tank, forcing herself to focus on the mundane task of pumping gas. She tried to forget the money tucked into her purse, the evidence of her crime. The attendant's friendly nod felt like a lifeline, grounding her for a fleeting moment. But she did not linger. The road called her, and she obeyed. Night deepened, and the isolation of the highway became suffocating. The trees whispered in the wind, and the tires hummed over the asphalt. Marion's thoughts spun, her boss, her lover, the judgment of the world. She thought of the life she had left behind and the one she hoped to seize. But as the miles stretched on, she began to feel eyes watching her, a sense of being followed that she could not shake. Every shadow on the road, every flicker of a passing tree, seemed alive with menace. Her anxiety grew until she noticed the sign, small and lonely in the moonlight, Bates Motel. The name was quaint, almost inviting, yet something about its stillness unnerved her. The neon light flickered, buzzing softly, casting eerie reflections on the wet asphalt. Marion pulled in, low. The morning sun broke weakly over the motel, casting long shadows across the gravel lot. Marion's car sat abandoned, the door slightly ajar, hinting at a presence that had vanished too suddenly. For the local authorities and passing travelers, it seemed a minor mystery, easily dismissed. Yet for Norman Bates, the weight of the previous night pressed heavily upon him. The act he had committed was not violence in its ordinary form. It was an eruption of a mind trapped by years of fear, obsession, and the suffocating influence of his mother, preserved in memory and in shadow. Norman cleaned the evidence carefully, moving with nervous precision. The murder, though horrific, had a cold logic in his mind. He could preserve the appearance of innocence, the facade that all who encountered him would believe. He was polite, helpful, and courteous, the perfect mask. But beneath it, his mind teetered dangerously. One moment he was Norman, the quiet motel keeper, the next, he became the shadow of his mother, a presence commanding, judgmental, and merciless. Meanwhile, far from the motel, Marion's sister, Lila Crane, began to sense something was wrong. The calls went unanswered, and the letters she had sent remained unopened. Marion's disappearance gnawed at her, creating a restless tension she could not ignore. Alongside Sam Loomis, Marion's lover and the one who knew her secrets intimately, Lila began to track the trail of her sister's journey. They followed clues, small and subtle, the abandoned car, the half-written notes, the final purchase at the gas station, and each lead drew them closer to the motel and the house looming silently behind it. At the motel, tension grew. Other guests noticed Norman's odd behavior, the way he seemed to vanish into shadows when conversations turned toward Marion. They whispered among themselves, but fear held them silent. Norman's polite smile, the nervous fumbling of his hands, and the carefully measured words concealed the violent truth. The night air hung heavy with mist as Sam Loomis circled the motel, his instincts telling him something was terribly wrong. Every shadow seemed alive, every creak of wood a signal that danger was near. He had traced Marion's disappearance to the Bates Motel, following fragments of evidence and instinct, but the truth waiting for him was far more sinister than he could have imagined. Inside the house, Lila moved cautiously, her eyes adjusting to the dim light that filtered through heavy curtains. The corridors felt endless, twisting, as if the house itself were designed to trap and confuse. Each door she opened revealed nothing at first, ordinary rooms frozen in time, dust motes floating in the air, furniture perfectly arranged, but the stillness was suffocating. Then she found the hidden passageways, narrow and dark, smelling faintly of decay and mothballs. Fear and curiosity pushed her forward. Meanwhile, Norman wrestled with his fractured mind. The persona of his mother, commanding and cruel, surged like a storm within him. He paced, muttering under his breath, switching voices, shifting between the polite, nervous son and the tyrannical, judgmental mother. The line between himself and the specter of his mother had dissolved completely, leaving him a puppet of her long-dead will. Each footstep Lila took, each sound from outside, threatened to unravel the delicate balance he maintained, pushing him closer to violence. As Lila reached the upper floor, she found the mummified body of Mrs. Bates. The sight froze her in place. Time had not only preserved the body but transformed it into a grotesque shrine, a chilling symbol of Norman's obsession and madness. The realization hit her: the mother who dominated Norman's life was gone, yet still alive in his mind. Her influence had driven him to murder, shaping every decision, every impulse, every horrifying act. At that moment, Norman appeared behind her. The polite, nervous young man vanished. In his place stood the calm. The morning sun crept weakly through the thin curtains of the Bates house, casting long, eerie shadows across the parlor. Norman sat silently, a fragile figure trembling under the weight of his fractured mind. The persona of his mother had receded, but only barely. Deep within him, the duality still lurked, a predator waiting for the smallest trigger to resurface. Lila and Sam stood at a cautious distance, watching him, aware that any sudden movement could reignite the nightmare. Lila felt a mixture of relief and horror. Relief that the immediate threat was over, horror at the depth of madness she had witnessed. The house that had seemed quaint and ordinary from the outside was in reality a labyrinth of obsession, violence, and delusion. Every detail, the hidden stairways, the locked rooms, the mummified body, was a reflection of a mind twisted by grief and control. Sam approached Norman carefully. He spoke with authority tempered by compassion, trying to reach the boy trapped within the monster. Norman flinched at every word, torn between obedience to his mother and the reality pressing in from outside. Lila joined Sam, her presence steadying, providing a human anchor in the storm of his psyche. Slowly, Norman responded, his voice breaking, revealing glimpses of the frightened, lonely man beneath decades of repression. The authorities arrived later, alerted by the evidence Sam had gathered. They entered the house with cautious respect, guided by Sam and Lila. As they catalogued the horrors, the truth became clear: Norman's mother had died long ago, yet her influence had endured, shaping every violent action he had taken. Marion Crane's murder, the fear of the locals, the web of terror spun around the motel, all traced back to a mind fractured by obsession and isolation. Norman was taken into custody, not as a fully conscious villain, but as a tragic figure, a man trapped by circumstance, genetics, and the weight of a controlling parent. He was a case study in psycho.